There's a war happening inside you. But it doesn't look like chaos. It looks like comfort, like control, like normal life. Carl Jung called it the war of the psyche, the quiet, invisible battle between who you are and who you're supposed to become. Most people never notice it. Not because they're blind, but because the traps are too familiar, too logical, too polite. They don't scream. They whisper. They don't attack. They guide you gently into mediocrity. In the most dangerous part, they sound like self-care. They wear the mask of balance, of peace, of being realistic. But underneath, they rot your will. They kill your fire. You stop reaching. You stop risking. You stay still. Not because you've arrived, but because the traps told you you're fine where you are. This video is not about motivation. It's about truth. And the truth is, you are being quietly shaped into something smaller than you were meant to be. If you've ever felt like your ambition is fading, your energy shrinking, your purpose blurring, these 13 traps might be why. Stay until the end. Not because it's trendy, but because if you don't see them, you'll live the rest of your life thinking it's your fault. If this speaks to your mind or your shadow, subscribe. These are the conversations you're not supposed to have. Balance sounds noble, wise, responsible, but for many, balance becomes a cage. You chase comfort in all directions: career, relationships, emotions, until you've trimmed down every edge that made you dangerous, alive, and capable of greatness. Carl Jung warned that wholeness is not achieved by balance, but by embracing the full spectrum of your psyche. Light and shadow, chaos and order. But balance culture tells you, avoid extremes, stay moderate, never go too far. And so you dull yourself. You never fully commit, never fully rest, never fully burn. You live in the lukewarm middle, numb, polite, functional, dead inside. This is not wisdom. It's sedation. Greatness demands imbalance, a sacred obsession, a period of darkness, an all-in devotion to becoming something more. Balance will come later, as a result, not as a rule. You're not here to hover between options. You're here to become something sharp, clear, and undeniable. And that doesn't happen by walking the middle of the road. Overthinking wears the mask of intelligence. You believe you're being cautious, thorough, responsible. But really, you're hiding. Carl Jung said the intellect is often a defense mechanism, a way to avoid the pain of emotion, uncertainty, and real change. Overthinking is not clarity. It's paralysis. It's the fear of making the wrong move disguised as analysis. You delay decisions. You reframe your doubts as logic. You feel safer in preparation mode, never realizing the over-prepared never arrive. The will to become is raw, risky. It moves before all facts are gathered. It dares, but overthinking strips you of that rawness. You become a manager of potential, never a creator of reality. If your mind is loud and your life is still, you're not thinking. You're stalling. Get out of your head. Move. Bleed. Learn by doing, not by circling. You weren't meant to calculate your transformation. You were meant to fight for it. Perfectionism isn't about standards, it's about fear. You don't delay action because you care so deeply. You delay because you're terrified of being seen, raw, incomplete, real. Carl Jung spoke of the persona, the mask we wear to face the world. Perfectionism is a mask so tight it strangles the self underneath. You wait until you feel ready. You wait until your skills are polished. You wait until you're immune to judgment. But that moment never comes. Perfectionism doesn't protect your potential. It prevents it. It stops the messy process of failing forward, of becoming something greater than what you are today. You must let go of flawless execution. You must make peace with looking foolish, awkward, unfinished, because the man who needs perfection to act will never act start ugly because becoming is always imperfect. You think you're at peace you feel calm, still, unbothered. But look closer is that peace, or is it the silence that comes from avoiding everything that stirs your soul? Carl Jung warned, what you avoid does not go away. It grows in the dark, in your dreams, in your habits. Avoidance kills the will to become by convincing you you're fine, stable, chill. But peace without challenge is stagnation. Real peace comes after confrontation, after the storm, after you've faced the fire and come out the other side. Avoidance is not tranquility. It's decay. You avoid the hard conversation, the new habit, the truth about your relationship, your calling, and every avoidance deepens the shadow. If you want peace, you must earn it by walking directly into what you fear, no more waiting for clarity. Walk into the storm. Only then will peace be real. You don't realize how much your identity is killing you. You say, I'm not that kind of person. I'm just not built for that. That's not me. But who told you that? Who did you need to become to survive your past? Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Your identity, the stable self you cling to, might be nothing more than a scar, a defense, a cage. You cannot become something new if you worship what you've been. Let it burn. The strongest version of you is buried beneath who you think you are. And if you're brave enough to kill your identity, the one shaped by safety and approval, you'll finally become someone worth being. The world trained you to need applause before action. You post. You wait. You measure your worth by reaction. This is slavery. Carl Jung warned that when a man's sense of self comes from others, he becomes a puppet, always performing, never becoming. Validation hunger destroys your will. You'll only take steps that feel safe, visible, popular. But the path to becoming demands that you move in the dark, alone, unseen, real. Growth happens when no one's clapping, when you wake early and grind in silence, when your actions are dictated not by who's watching, but by who you. Refuse to die as forget visibility. Crave alignment, and the crowd will follow later, or not. Either way, you won. Comparison is poison dressed as guidance. You scroll. You watch. You measure and slowly you disappear. You become a reflection of other people's paths, not your own. Their success shamans you. Their pace controls you. Their image becomes your standard. Carl Jung warned of the loss of individuality when the self is buried under imitation and projection. You were never meant to walk someone else's timeline. You were meant to carve your own with blood, risk, and soul. Comparison kills that. It convinces you you're behind, that you're not enough, that your calling must look like theirs. But the will to become is not competitive. It's sovereign. It doesn't race others. It rebels against sameness. If you want to escape this trap, stop asking, how do I measure up? Start asking, what would it look like to build something that only I could? Because your path, your real one, doesn't have competition. It has purpose, and it's waiting. Self-improvement can become the most elegant form of procrastination. You read another book, start another journal, watch another video. You feel productive, aware, evolving, but your life stays the same. Carl Jung didn't want you to admire your wounds forever. He wanted you to integrate them and then live. But many get trapped in perpetual introspection. They turn self-discovery into self-avoidance. They never act, never leap, never dare. The trap is subtle. You feel wise, but you're really hiding behind the ritual of Reflection. Real transformation isn't clean. It's action. It's failing. Publicly, it's risking rejection. It's getting your philosophy dirty with life. Yes, do the inner work. But remember, you're not here to understand yourself forever. You're here to become someone new. And that can't happen if you're always studying who you already are. You say you'll move once you're clear, once you know, but clarity isn't what you think it is. It's not a gift you wait for. It's a consequence of movement. Carl Jung said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." Clarity comes from doing, from bleeding on the battlefield, not planning in the tent. The fantasy of perfect clarity keeps you frozen. You tell yourself you're processing, aligning, getting ready. But really, you're avoiding the unknown, the part of becoming that can't be predicted. Waiting for clarity is how the herd stays tame. They want the full map before taking a step. But the warrior walks into fog. He trusts the path will reveal itself, not all at once, but step by step, as he earns it. You're not supposed to know everything yet. You're supposed to start anyway. You ask for advice. You look for signs. You wait for permission. You don't even realize you've handed your sovereignty to the world. Carl Jung believed individuation, becoming a whole self, requires reclaiming your inner authority. But the modern mind is trained to outsource truth. To experts, to friends, to algorithms. You no longer trust your gut, your instinct, your madness. You wait for someone to validate your direction before you move. This kills your will, because the will to become is sovereign. It listens inward, not outward. It breaks consensus. It offends. It risks. Stop outsourcing your life. Not here to live the most approved version of you. You're here to live the most authentic version. And no one else knows what that is, not even me. You begin to change, and suddenly you feel guilty. You shrink your wins. You soften your words. You hide your hunger. Why? Because the people around you haven't changed, and you're afraid of leaving them behind. Carl Jung warned, personal transformation often threatens the tribe. You stop playing the same games. You stop feeding the same wounds. You stop laughing at things you've outgrown. And they feel it. So you feel bad. You convince yourself to slow down. Blend in. Keep it safe. But this guilt is a trap. You are not born to stay familiar. You are born to evolve. And sometimes that means walking alone, not in arrogance, but in truth. You don't owe anyone your stagnation. The best gift you can give those around you is your fullest self, even if it costs you their approval. You think suffering makes you noble. You glorify the pain. Wear it like a badge. Turn your wounds into identity. But pain is not the point. Carl Jung taught that suffering should be transformed, not idolized. Yet many get stuck here. They believe being broken is deep, that being lost is honest, that staying wounded is real. And so they stop moving. The wound becomes the identity. The trauma becomes the story. The struggle becomes the aesthetic. But there is no glory in stagnation. You are not here to camp in the pain. You are here to alchemize it, to use it as fuel, as clarity, as a reason to rise. Romanticizing the wound keeps you from healing. Don't worship the fire. Become what rises from it. You know what's wrong. You can name your patterns. You've read the books, underlined the quotes, understood your shadow, and you think that's enough. But awareness is not change. Carl Jung said, knowing your darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. But many never move beyond knowing. They treat insight like a rival, but insight is the first step. Transformation only begins when insight meets discipline. When reflection becomes choice, when truth becomes action. You're not here to admire your psychology. You're here to use it. To carve a life It reflects your deepest knowing, not your safest interpretation. If this journey shook something in you, don't let it fade. Subscribe for more. Not for entertainment, but for reminders of what you're here to become. The traps are real. But so is the path out. And it begins now.